go. I think we can skip this slide. If anybody has any questions about the services that we can provide, just let us know. We are here to support you. This session is being recorded. I'll make sure that I stop recording at the end and stay on for a little bit just to see if there's any additional questions or anything that anybody wants to share that they would rather not be on the recording. Is there anything that anyone would like to share now? Something that they took away from last week, or sorry, something you took away from last week, or something that you want to learn more about? This is our last session. So is there anything that you want to make sure that we cover today? Any pressing questions?
I don't think so.
No, we just have let's see, 7 people in here right now, so it's a little smaller group. Some of the staff will be in a little bit, but so it's a little smaller group right now, just so to give you an idea.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's so weird not being able to see anybody, so I appreciate that. All right, so this is session 4, the last one. The solving the top discipline problems. And just kind of an introduction, just a reminder that as parents and teachers and caregivers, our words and actions are very powerful. So really this book is all about being conscious of what you say and do to yourself as well as your children. So we're going to discuss loving guidance for some of those common discipline issues tonight. Just a few reminders. Your job is not to make your child behave, but to help your child be more likely to choose to comply with your wishes. And a really key component of this is that having that connected relationship, that healthy relationship. And then your child's job is to test the limits based on their current developmental level. So unfortunately, it's not something where we're going to teach them everything that they need to know, and then they're going to stop misbehaving. They're going to continue to test the limits based on where they are developmentally. But children that feel loved, valued, and capable are more likely to choose to cooperate. So that loving relationship really is the foundation of conscious discipline. Just a few other things I want to mention before we dive into some common discipline issues is to keep safety in mind above everything else. And sometimes the best option, especially if you have been triggered or had your hot button pushed, the best option might be to remove yourself or your child from the scene rather than screaming. Sometimes you're calm enough to create a teaching and learning moment, and sometimes you're not, and that's okay. And children learn from their testing, and they learn from your response to their testing, and they learn from their own natural development. So like I mentioned earlier, that testing those limits is never going to end, but that is part of how they learn and grow and develop. If you get to a point where your child seems constantly resistant to what you need them to do or not do, or if they appear apathetic, they may need time just to connect with you. So maybe taking some extra time out of your day to just be present with them and connect with them. Try some of those I love you rituals. Same with in the classroom, making sure that you're being intentional about talking with them at their level. That might really help turn that tide from a child that's being consistently resistant to one that is more cooperative. Because when a child needs attention, or if they're seeking attention or really craving attention, it's very easy for them. They figure out very quickly that misbehavior is a great way to get attention. And if you're giving them lots of positive attention, then you might see less resistance. All right. So the first one that I wanted to make sure that we covered really well, I think it was a couple parents that mentioned this, is what to do with power struggles. So just another reminder here is that children will resist and they will oppose you at times. It's part of their developmental journey. But conscious discipline does have 3 skills that is recommended to avoid those power struggles when your child is trying to pull you into one. The first one is the skill of assertiveness. So really remembering to breathe, to focus on what you want the child to do, and then that name, verb, paint process, which is where you get on their level, make eye contact, wait till they're looking at you, say their name. The verb is what you want them to do. And then paint the process is where you use your words and gestures to paint a picture of exactly what you expect from them. And the more you paint that picture of what you expect, the more likely the child is to comply. And the younger the child, the less words and the more gestures. So yeah, so going back to those assertive commands. The other thing that power struggles, to avoid power struggles, is going back to the 2 choices, the 2 positive choices, which one is best for you. The younger the child, you might be holding 2 different things up. Do you want to wear red socks or do you want to wear blue socks? Which one is best for you? But the choice is not that they don't get to put socks on at all. If you are in a struggle with a child who doesn't want to make choices, or they're refusing to make choices, one suggestion that Dr. Becky Bailey has is to use what she calls the parroting, like parrot as in the word technique, where you keep repeating the choices calmly. So repeat the options that you've presented to your child in that calm, assertive voice. And then the child, if they do choose to cooperate, then celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that they are complying with what you are telling them to do. If they escalate the situation, kind of pulling you into that power struggle where it could be like verbal or even physical, or throwing a temper tantrum or trying to run away. At this point, this is when it's a good time to bring in the skill of empathy. And really try to help the child through that temper tantrum or fit by using that, describing what you're seeing and hearing, naming how you believe that they're feeling, and acknowledging that it's hard, and just help them get through that struggle to return to a place where they will be more likely to be cooperative. So you're stomping your feet and you're yelling and your face is red and it looks like you are feeling angry. I know it's hard when you have to get dressed for school and you want to play longer, and just kind of be there with them as they get through that struggle. And then after a power struggle, as far as Dr. Becky Bailey does suggest healing. And the first thing is, often, if I know for me, when I have ended up in a power struggle with one of my children, and I still do, even with my teenager, I always feel guilty afterwards because I know that I didn't handle things the best way that I could have or the way I wished I had. And so the first step is to forgive yourself. Sometimes we're calm enough and composed enough to turn conflict into teaching moments, and sometimes we're not. Another thing is to engage your child in problem solving. So make a plan together for the future that will help your child choose to obey. So if it's about bedtime, maybe say, bedtime is really hard. It's a real struggle. What can we do next time to make bedtime easier? And problem solve with your child what ideas they may have. Help your child feel powerful by pointing out all the choices that they do get to make during the day. Children here know a lot. They have a lot of limits on them. But at the same time, they're also making a lot of choices. So just pointing out, today you chose to eat your peas before your chicken. Just any opportunities that you see, point out to your child the choices that they do make. And make sure that they have opportunities to engage in activities that they enjoy and can be successful at. And then play with your child regularly. That goes back to that connection. Make sure that you're building a really strong connection with your child all the time. Or even, like I said, in the classroom, making sure that you're taking some time during the day to make eye contact with them and connect with them in some way. There's interesting statistic in this book that says playing with your child for 5 minutes per day can decrease power struggles by as much as 50%. So that's pretty huge. And that's not necessarily the first thing when you think of a child that's just, going through a really difficult phase and they're always resisting you and you're always ending up in all these power struggles. You can reduce that by 50% by spending 5 minutes a day just focused on them and being present with them and spending time with them and playing with them. Do you have any questions about power struggles? Does that kind of help explain or give you some ideas for power struggles moving forward?
I have a question about a power struggle we've been having. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so we have the 3-year-old and then the 2-year-old twins. And yes. Lately, our 3-year-old has been refusing to do anything with my husband or allow him to help her. And so if I'm putting one of her sisters to sleep, she will throw an all-out meltdown that she can't be by me in the room, but she makes noise and plays with the dresser and refuses to lay down quietly. So there are times where I just can't have her in there with me. And so she will hit him and scream and be in an all-out power struggle with him for a half hour and be completely relentless until I am done and come and calm her down. And so she will not give in to him at all. And so I don't know what to do because she'll play with him totally fine and be fine with him. And then as soon as I leave the room, she's pissed.
That's hard. Boy, that's hard. That makes bedtime so hard.
Yeah. So it feels like our options are either I give in and give her what she's demanding, or she sits there and is really angry at my husband. So neither of those are ideal.
Right. Okay. So let's back up and go to let's start with leading up to a time when you're going to have to leave the room. I would sit down and talk with her and explain what the expectations are. So she knows that it's coming, and maybe even give her a warning, at 7 o'clock, mom is going to be with the twins, putting them to bed. At 7:30 or 7:20 or however long that takes, then mom will be out, and I'm saying mom as if the three of you are meeting, but you would say, I will be done with the twins and I will come out and you can pick the book that we're going to read. So maybe just be really clear about what the schedule is. Maybe do a picture schedule or a picture routine of what bedtime looks like. Did you say this was at bedtime?
It's all the time.
Oh, all the time. Okay.
Anytime I have to leave.
Okay. Well, maybe start with one time that's common.
Yeah.
Just for the picture schedule or the routine schedule idea.
Yeah.
Pick one time, work on one time of the day to start with. And do like either like pictures of this is what happens during this time of day. So say it is bedtime and you put the twins to bed first and then you put her to bed. So this is what happens. This is the order that it happens. And when mommy is putting the twins to bed, daddy is getting her ready for bed, or however that is going to work. So just kind of setting it up, making sure that she knows, she understands that that's what's going to happen. And also that she knows when you're going to be back. Another thing, and kind of going back to that, name, verb, and paint the process. So before you leave, make eye contact with her, say her name, say, I am going to put the twins to bed. You are going to be with daddy and get ready for bed. And then I will be back and we can read a book. Just be very assertive and make sure she understands what's happening and when she can expect you. If she starts throwing a fit before you even leave, you could try throwing the choices in. Would you like to read a book together when I'm done, or would you like to sing a song? Try that, and then which one is best for you, and see if she makes a choice, and then say, okay, well, I can't wait. At 7:30, we're gonna sing songs together. And then the empathy part is probably gonna have to come from your husband, because he's gonna be stuck with her wrath. And again, just describing, you are really angry. You are hitting me. You are yelling at me. It looks like, it seems like you are really angry. I know it's hard when mommy can't be here, but I am here and I am keeping you safe. And it just might have to be just kind of repeating that. I know you're angry. I know it's hard when mommy is away. And just letting her be angry. But definitely do not give in. And if she ends up tantruming for a half hour, at least with him giving that empathy, she at least knows that he understands. And then maybe the next time it'll be a little bit easier. That's a start. I mean, I don't think there's any one thing that you can do to fix this. I would say that that sounds so hard and so challenging, but I also think it's fairly common, and it's probably a mixture of her really wanting to have all of your attention and not share your attention with her siblings, and just wanting to make sure she has all of your attention. And by lashing out at dad, she, in a sense, she's hoping that you'll give in and come back and be with her. So, and then also making sure that there's times built in throughout the day where you are focused on her. Even if it's 5 minutes, where it's what she wants to do, whether it's playing or doing an I love you ritual. And just knowing that it's okay and this will pass. Looking at the slide here, and if I'm talking too much, just tell me, okay, we're ready to move on. But Another thing, engage your child on problem solving. I mean, you could try that too. Say, boy, it's really hard for you when I'm gone. What are some things we could do to make it easier? What are some things that you could do with daddy? Would you like to read maybe try 2 choices with daddy? Would you like to read a book with daddy, or would you like to sing some songs?
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope some of those ideas help. It's kind of just trying different things, but remembering to be assertive and not to give in, because this, as soon as you do that, I mean, and that's what you're going to want to do. I've experienced that with my middle child. She went through a stage, and actually I think she was about 3.5. 3.5 was really hard for her. Where she wouldn't let anybody, grandma, anybody do anything else for her. And I had returned to work, and it was really challenging, but she did get through it. And it's not anything that you are doing or not doing that's causing it. And it's certainly not anything that your husband is doing or not doing that's causing it. She'll get through it. Any other ideas for this or questions, or you want me to move on?
Well, Sarah, dinner's done now, so if we can just kind of pause here for a moment so that everyone can get their food, and then
Okay.
come back and we can start up. So maybe we'll just take like a 5-minute break or something so that.
Okay, sure. I'll be back in 5 minutes, and we're going to tackle tattling next. I know that was another big one that people were wanting to know about. So enjoy your dinner. What is for dinner? Do we know now?
We have pork loin, cheesy potatoes, green beans, cheesecake, and cupcakes.
Wow. Fancy. That sounds delicious. All right, enjoy.
Sarah, I think I'm gonna pause the recording just so that there's not just like a long gap of silence.
That's a great idea. Can you do that, or do I need to?
I don't know. Let me go up there and look.
All right. So tattling. So this is something. This is something that am I talking over someone?
No.
Okay. I know when I was a teacher, this was something that drove me crazy. I kind of nipped it in the bud with my kids, but it still was an issue when they were younger. So I totally get it. The one thing to keep in mind is that children up to 8 years of age, their first instinct is to bring their problems and things that they're upset about to adults for assistance. And we do want children to trust that they can come to us when they're having a problem. But instead of just saying it's not nice to tattle or you need to go handle it yourself, this really is an opportunity to teach, depending on the situation. And the child is saying that they need help with a situation. So there's 3 different types of tattling, and knowing how to respond depends on the type of tattling. The first one is called intrusion tattling, and that's when a child, there's some sort of victimization. So when children tattle in this manner, they're expressing that they don't know how to handle the situation. This is when a child says, so-and-so hit me, so-and-so made a face at me, so-and-so called me a name. So they need help with that situation. So the first thing is to teach them that skill of assertiveness, teach them assertive language, and explain how they want to be treated in the future. So for example, Luke called me a name, then you can say, did you like it? No. Well, tell Luke, I don't like it when you call me names. And that's kind of where you can kind of start with the, use your words. I don't like it when you. And then you can take it one step further and say, what do you want him to do? Stop. The child says, stop. So you want him to call you by your name. So tell Luke, my name is Chloe, call me that instead. Now, some children, this will come a lot easier for. Other children that maybe are very soft-spoken or maybe don't have the confidence might need to practice with you first, or just practice with you in general. Practice saying no, practice saying stop. And you can even have them match their voice to yours. So say stop like this. Now match your voice to mine so that the child can go and respond assertively. One thing I think I mentioned, like this might have been the very first night. If a child is upset, chances are they're not going to be able to be assertive with a child that just hit them or called them a name. So kind of remembering that piece, that the child might need a little bit of a break or some breathing so that they're calm enough that they can go back and speak assertively. Just like adults, sometimes we need a break to take a deep breath and regain our composure so that we can be assertive. Children might need that too. I had my son and a friend of his that I was providing care for, I think they were about 3 or 4, and they were both screaming at each other. Please stop, I don't like it. But they were screaming it like back and forth, and it just escalated. And the piece I was missing, they were using their words. The piece that they were missing was they were both really agitated and angry and upset, and they needed some time to breathe so that they could listen to what the other one was saying. And then taking it that next step, I don't like it when you call me names. Well, also empowering that child to tell the other child what they want. So what do you want instead? I want them to use my name. So go tell Luke to use your name. So not only does it teach them to use their words and express when they don't like something, but also giving them that tool to say, oh, this is what I do want, or I don't want him to push me. I want him to walk around me. And that's a great skill that we could all learn, is really teaching other people how to treat us. So that's intrusion tattling. The next kind, this is the trickier one, and that's revenge tattling. And that occurs when children feel that others aren't behaving as they should. So and often they're trying to get another child into trouble. So our response should be to teach children that helpfulness is better at problem solving than revenge. So for example, I'm just going to read the example that is on their website. Jessica isn't cleaning up. That's what the child says, comes to you, and that's revenge tattling. And the adult says, are you telling me to be helpful or hurtful? So really kind of remembering that phrase, and allowing that child to think for a second if they're being helpful or hurtful in telling you. And if they say helpful, I'm telling you to be helpful, then maybe just asking them, follow up with a question. So how is telling me about Jessica not cleaning up being helpful? And then she may or may not. Oh, yeah, Melissa, I did not put all of this on a slide because it was too much.
Okay, I thought I saw it on the one that you sent me, so I thought maybe there was.
No, I just have notes for this.
Okay, I just wanted to, because I saw the 3 types of tattling, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point though. I'm glad you mentioned that. But no, I was trying not to write a book and put it on a slide. So
Understand.
Yeah, so really, so then followed up by asking the child, so how is telling me that Jessica didn't clean up helpful? And if the child can't answer, then say, what could you do that would be helpful? And if the child says, I don't know, you could say, Jessica, would you like some help cleaning up? So just kind of diffusing that, and not feeding into the situation of getting the other child in trouble, but really helping the one that's tattling to consider if they are being helpful or if they are being hurtful. And then shifting to problem solving. So what can we do to make sure that everybody's cleaning up? Maybe Jessica needs some help. Does that make sense?
That's a head nodding, yes.
Okay. And you may need to, again, give the child the words to use, and maybe give them the tone of voice. If the child says, well, maybe Jessica needs help, or maybe Jessica doesn't want to clean up, well, what could you do that's helpful? I could help Jessica. Well, maybe you give her the words to go to Jessica and say, can I help you clean up? And then the last one is safety tattling. And this is when children report safety issues. Like somebody got hurt. And this is with safety tattling, this is definitely when you want children to feel like they can trust you to come to you with problems. And this is where you come back to safety above all else. So you want to reaffirm for the child that your job as the parent or the teacher is to keep the classroom or the home safe. So you can say, I will take care of Jessica. Telling me was helpful. I will keep her safe. So really, I know I just threw a lot out there, but really the intrusion tattling is when the child needs help because somebody did something they didn't like. And so it's just a matter of giving them those words and helping them be assertive. The revenge tattling is really the one that's tattling. It's really kind of putting it back on them and saying, are you being helpful or hurtful? Making them take ownership of that and kind of considering, okay, which one am I going to be? It might be better to be helpful instead of hurtful. And then the safety tattling, obviously we want kids to come tell us when there's a safety issue. So just reaffirming, yes, that was helpful that you came and told me. All right, questions about this or comments or additional scenarios?
Don't think so.
Okay, all right, moving along to, well, sometimes it progresses, sometimes, oh, there we go. Oh, I did have them. Oh my gosh, Melissa, I'm so sorry.
Like, oh, maybe she removed it because I was looking at the other slides. So I was like, oh, maybe she removed it. I was wrong.
I forgot I made a slide. Okay, here we go. Intrusion. Say stop. Or I don't like it when you call me names. The revenge tattling. Are you being helpful or hurtful? The safety. Telling me was helpful. I will keep them safe. Okay, you're more on it than I am, Melissa. And these are my slides. All right, there you go.
Yeah, Tanika noticed. I just said it.
All right, now lying. So again, considering the development behind the lying, young children and school age are kind of, they're learning the difference between fact and fiction, but they're still maybe exploring that difference through play, through bending the truth, and through making up stories, which when I was reading about that, I was doing some reading just online within the context of conscious discipline. And I was thinking about this story that was shared last week about the little boy that has been telling stories. So developmentally, this is something that children are exploring at this age. Now his storytelling has very grave potential consequences. But this is something that happens. There's two scenarios that I just wanted to just briefly mention. And then how conscious discipline would respond. So the first one is a child named Brittany, and she wrote her name in marker on like the console of the minivan. And when her mom confronts her about it, she denies it. So mom takes a deep breath, starts to think, okay, how can I make her tell me the truth? And then kind of shifts gears. And this is her response. She says, Brittany, look at your name in the car. You have a choice. You can clean it with a washcloth or a sponge. Which will you use? And then as Brittany chooses and begins to clean up, her mom encourages her by saying, you did it. You cleaned up the armrest in your seat. So she focused on the behavior. At that point, really what she wanted was to have her daughter clean up what she had done. And so rather than kind of dying on the hill of getting her to tell her the truth, she focused on what she wanted to see happen in that situation. She offered two choices. She followed that with encouragement. And then she then used the power of unity to connect with Brittany and had her write her name on a piece of paper in the house, and then talked about how great she is at writing her name and gave her opportunities to show her mom how she could write her name on paper. So that's one scenario for responding to lying. Scenario number two. Well, this one is a mom and son are getting groceries. He wanted to buy candy and she said no. They get home, she's putting groceries away. He's very quiet. He goes to his room. So she went to check on him and he was sitting on the bed holding a candy bar. And so she asked him where he got it and he said, I just have it. And she said, did you get it at the store? And he said, I just have it. So again, her first thought was, okay, I need to make him tell me the truth. But she shifted gears to how can I help my child be more likely to tell the truth rather than how can I make him, and created a safe space for him to admit the mistake. So she stayed very calm. And she said, Matthew, I think when we were shopping, you saw the candy bar. You knew I wouldn't buy it, but you wanted it so badly that you couldn't stop yourself from taking it. And at this point, he lowered his eyes and said, I really wanted it. And she said, you wanted it, so you stole it. How do you feel now about what you did? And he says, bad. And she said, the candy bar is not yours. It must be returned. And then they went together to return the candy bar to the store. So in that situation, she did need him to accept responsibility for the fact that he stole it. But rather than accusing him, causing him to be defensive or shut down, she was very calm, sat close with him, made eye contact, and started by kind of having that positive intent that he didn't go into the store with the intention of stealing, but saying, I think that you saw it and you really wanted it and you took it, and that's stealing. And then in the end, what she wanted to happen happened. He admitted that he did take it, and then she followed through with the two of them going to the store to return it. So those are two ways to respond to lying depending on the situation. The one, again, use the skill of choices, skill of encouragement, the power of unity and that connection. The other one, she really just shifted her thinking from how can I make my child, which that's the power of free will, to how can I help my child be more likely to tell the truth, and then created that safe space, which is the power of unity. Are there any questions about that or thoughts or anything about that stand out? Of course, I didn't solve the problem with the little boy telling the stories about his mom. I really, I'm not sure that that one can be solved other than
Jesus.
just really trying to remember, how can I help him be more likely to tell the truth? How can I be that safe space where he's more likely to tell the
I
truth?
know this week they've really been bragging on him, recognizing his accomplishments, and they're starting to think that he was doing it for attention.
Okay, okay, so you know, a child that is seeking attention
Another.
often figures out that misbehavior, including lying, is a great way to get attention. So yeah, that's so making sure that that child feels connected and loved and is getting positive attention in appropriate ways. Yeah, that's great. That's a great response. All right, so now we're gonna move into just some other scenarios. We're not gonna spend forever on this. I'm gonna also make sure that we get done a little bit early tonight. But I wanna make sure that if there's any scenarios that, or situations like the one that was already brought up, we can definitely talk through them. So I have some ready to go from the book, but if you have one kind of like the, you know, the child that was shared earlier, please bring that up and we can do that instead of one from the book. And I did, Melissa, were you able to make copies of the summary?
Yes, I put it on everyone's table. It's
Okay. So, yeah, so that's kind of like your cheat sheet. So when we are talking about these scenarios, kind of looking at these are the 7 skills and the 7 powers. And if you remember each, they're all connected. So like the power of perception is in kind of in partnership with that skill of composure. But I have the motto of each one or the saying of each one and kind of how to carry it out here. So this is your cheat sheet. So when we look at these scenarios, if you want to look at your cheat sheet and kind of think about which skills and keeping in mind which powers will best address the situation. Does that make sense? All right, let's just dive in. The first one is clean your room. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to give you a summary. So basically, these are 2 brothers, Nelson and Carlson. Nelson is super meticulous and organized and always keeps his stuff clean. And Carlson is the opposite. And difficulty cleaning his room was a chronic problem. So how can the parents address the situation with 2 brothers? One cleans his room great, the other one, it's a chronic problem. What are some skills that could be used in this scenario? And I'll just to get you started, they decided to have a family meeting to kind of kick things off with the two brothers. So what are some ideas?
Sarah, can you repeat the scenario again?
So there's 2 brothers with one is organized and clean and tidy, and the other one has a chronic issue with it's described as mayhem is comfortable to him. So one is super messy. And the parents they want to address the issue, the chronic problem of Carlson not cleaning his room.
Another one to look at?
No, I don't have my glasses.
You could give him choices.
Yeah, I was gonna say the power of making choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And in fact, yeah, would you like to clean up your baseball cards first or your trucks first? Yeah, that's a great opportunity for that.
Or even like, do you want to listen to music while you clean your room? Or do you want to make a game of it or something like that?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Or it makes it- oh, shit. It's new. I feel like more is not.
So some other ideas is when they had the family meeting, they did some problem solving and they asked the boys, what can we do to make sure that your room is clean, and got their ideas. Of course, Carlson's idea was to hire a maid, but that wasn't an idea that was plausible. So they decided that the boys wanted to clean the room together, but that they would ask the other one if they needed help and they would cheer each other on. And that was something that the boys decided together. And then they decided on a time every week that the boys would work on cleaning the room. So it was a time dedicated for the two of them to clean it. And even if Carlson just did a little bit or picked one thing up, they would encourage him. You did it, you put your trucks in the bin, and celebrate that. And then when their room was clean, then they also celebrated. Looks like they went for ice cream when the boys both cleaned their room. So. Yep. All right, next one. Stop hitting, be nice. So this is pretty standard. This is two brothers. And Chad was pounding on his younger brother, Danny, when their mother walked by. Stop, she shouted as she pulled them apart. Danny began crying and said, Chad punched me, I hate him. So at this point, what are some options for the mom?
Really strong word.
But also, I think it's kind of a skill of consequence because it's not nice to hear that, but also he's entitled to feel how he feels in that moment. So I think that's maybe like more of a natural consequence for him to feel that way, because the brother probably didn't feel very good after he said that. So then learning from that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would probably definitely add some words there for them. But yeah, it made you really angry when he hit you. Now, the other brother, the one that did the hitting, then goes on to say that his little brother wouldn't leave his room, and that's why he hit him. So yeah, I mean, really, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about that's a consequence. It's a natural consequence, the harsh words that were spoken. But overall, one of the types of consequences, problem solving, that's another great option here, is is to problem solve. And at this point, they both have a grievance against each other. So hearing why both of them are upset, reflecting that back, you know, you were really angry that your brother hit you, or you were really angry that your brother was in your room and he didn't leave when you asked him to. And then going through that problem solving, what do you think you could do next time when you want your brother to leave your room? Or what do you think you, for the other brother, what could you do next time when your brother wants you to leave the room? This is another one where that skill of composure is so important, because if the children have escalated, making sure that you are breathing and maintaining your composure, that's the only way that you're going to be able to de-escalate. Would you do an additional consequence for the hitting?
Yes.
Yeah, I probably would too. I think that depends on you as a parent and maybe like in the moment. But I, as a parent, I probably would too. I probably would, I would probably find a logical consequence for the hitting, for him not using his words. But having that conversation about next time, what can you do different? If your brother's not listening to your words to leave your room, what can you do different? You can come get me. You can ask for help.
I know we talked about it in one of our previous classes, but in that situation, who do you help first if it's just you?
Well, the one that's crying. So, I mean, if they're both kind of being physical and they're both really angry, I would skip right to problem solving. But that's a really good point, because it does, and I don't know if I read that, but it does, the one is crying because the younger one, Danny, is crying because his older brother punched him. So in that instance, you would want to address Danny first.
Also, both like this was first and fierce, so.
You know, if the one was agitating the other one and the other one just got so frustrated they didn't know what to do, and then whack the other one.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why, yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, they both had grievances about the other one. So getting to that problem solving skill of consequences is definitely critical. But I would err on the side of the one that's most victimized in the moment. Like if one is crying, address that child first, but you're going to want to get to the problem solving, because Danny needs to learn that when his brother says, leave my room, get out of my room, he needs to respect his brother's words. So there's a learning moment, there's a teaching opportunity for Danny as well.
I'm always confused when you say, like, for that just example that you gave, get out of my room, or I want to be alone, or something like that. Do we make the other child get out of their room, or do we turn it and be like, no, you need to share your room with your sibling because that's what you're supposed to do? So then do you try to obey what they say, or do you turn it around and be like, no, he can play in your room or the toy room or whatever it is? My daughter would be like, I want to be alone. This should be in a public space and all the kids in this area. And I'm like, you can't be alone right now. It's not a choice. And she'd be like, but I want to be alone. And I'm like, you can't. We're in a public area. So then I don't know what to do. It's like, well, she's asking something, but it's not a possibility, so then I just have to force her to not be, and then she just gets mad and frustrated, and there was a big fit.
So I think, so in this situation, it was Chad's room, like it was his room, not like a space in the house. So in that scenario, he did not want his little brother in his room. It wasn't a room that they shared. Now, that might depend some on the rules of your house. Like if children share a room, then that's very different. Then it's more about kind of respecting each other's space. If you have a room, if you have a rule in your house that children can be in each other's rooms, then you might handle that differently. But it sounds like in this situation, and how it worked, like for me as a parent, for example, their rooms were their own rooms and they did not have to let their siblings in. Now, if it's a playroom where all of their stuff is in it, that's very different. You're right. So it depends on the situation. Sometimes they have a right to be alone and have privacy if it's appropriate, and if they're in a space that is theirs. But if they're in a playroom and they want to be alone, then you're exactly right. That's not an option. Everybody gets to play here. This is our playroom. If you want to be alone, you can go sit in the bathroom, or you can go, I don't know, in the kitchen, because there's nobody else in there, and sit at the table, for example. And if you're out in public, I would try to find out more what your child wants as far as being alone. Because sometimes when you're out in public, you're exactly right. That's not an option. And it's okay for your child to be mad. Like, that's okay. You can show them empathy. I know that there's too many people around. And I can see that you're feeling frustrated and you wish that all these people weren't around. You wish you could be alone. That's hard. And just be there with them through that difficulty, but it's okay for them to be mad. You just want to help them get through it so that they can and help them express it in a way that's not destructive. And if the children do share a room, and so they can't tell the one sibling to leave the room, if it's a common problem, put tape down the floor. So this is space that's just for this child. This is space that's just for this child. So they have a place that's theirs, where they can, and it's not necessarily alone, but where they have their own space. Does that help at all?
Yeah, definitely. I never in my life thought as a child's room is their room. We didn't grow up like that. It was just like a room with a bed in it, and everybody was loud everywhere all the time. It never occurred to me like that's her room, that like no one else should be ever in it. It's like,
okay, well, let me clarify too. I'm not talking parents here. I mean, you can definitely be in your child's room. I'm only speaking of siblings. And again,
yeah, I know what you mean. I just never thought of it that way. It's like just shutting her door and letting her be in her room.
well, and whatever makes sense for you and your family. Not having closed doors might be important, especially for younger children. They might be able to go in their room and not have a sibling bother them in their room, but maybe the door stays open. You don't necessarily want a 2 or 3-year-old alone in a room with a closed door for too long. And if what works for your family is that everybody can be in every room, that's okay too. I don't think that there's one right or one wrong way, but if the child is expressing a need to have some of their own space, have some options there. So yeah, your brother can come in your room because you have all your toys are there or whatever, and we don't have separate spaces. But when you want to be by yourself, make a soft spot, kind of like what some classrooms do. A place with like some pillows and some books and some calm things and a plant. Just have it be a special place where kids can go when they just need some time away or some time to regroup or some time for some breathing. Just make a spot that can be used, and when only one child at a time can be in it. So that's another option. But whatever works for you, I mean, that's the thing about conscious discipline. And that's also something that I learned. One of the best things I learned with my first child was I could read I stopped reading all the books and trying to do everything perfect by my third. But my first one, I tried to do everything perfect and read all the books. But I learned that doing what makes sense for my family and my child and for me, there's a lot of strength in that and a lot of power in that, and that's okay. So do what makes sense. All right. 7:16. Okay. I have some more options we can talk about, or does anybody have something else they want to throw out there? Another scenario or issue we haven't covered?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying these are our main issues, were these two scenarios, so we were gonna start with those are the ones to start with.
How about looking at kind of this cheat sheet? What is one skill that you think that you already feel like you're pretty good at, or that you feel like will come pretty easy and you kind of get it and makes sense, you think you'll be able to use it, and one skill that you think is going to be really challenging or difficult to really get behind? I know for me, that the skill of empathy and the power of acceptance, it's mainly the power of acceptance. I am one that, like, I want my children to be okay and to be happy and to have what they want and need. I like everything to be okay. And so when my kids, especially when they were younger, not especially, even now as adults and teenagers, when they're upset or they're going through something difficult, I want to fix it. I want to fix it and make it better for them. And I think I can make it better for them. So that's something that I've always thought I was a super empathetic person, and I am to a certain extent, but I forget that power of acceptance, that the moment is as it is. And it's okay for my kids to be mad. It's okay for them to be disappointed. It's okay for them to be frustrated. It's not my job to fix it for them. And I can't make them feel a certain way, even though I want to. And so just being with them and showing them that empathy, and being with them through the difficult times, rather than trying to keep them from getting mad or upset, or to stop them from being mad or upset. Just showing that empathy and being with them through the difficult times. That's something that I've learned a lot through this, and I think it's going to take me a while to really master it, because my first thought is I don't want them to be upset. I want them to be okay. Melissa or Tanika, do you have anything that comes to mind of these that you feel like you're really good at, or something that is challenging?
I thought of something that's challenging for me. So skill of composure, not that I like lose my mind and start screaming or anything, but hitting. It's like scenarios straight out of my life every day. arguing, that's how we start the day. I have 3 children and every morning literally starts with somebody fighting about.
You looked at me.
Or there, I have a 12-year-old, an almost 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. Who would think that all of these children, including my 12-year-old, would be fighting over a step stool to brush their teeth? My son, my 12-year-old's practically on the ceiling,
Yeah.
he's on the thing, but they fight. So I struggle to not get angry, right along with them. So that's something that I really, the breathing stuff, like I've been trying that in my real life, because every morning when I hear the toothbrushes go, I know it's about to go down. And it does every morning. So I've been trying to be like, take some breaths before you go in there, because it just, that is a trigger for me. First starting the day off with a fight over a
Well,
step
and
stool.
also I
That
think
makes
sets a
12
tone
and
for the
9-year-old
whole
don't.
day when you start with a fight, because we start with a lot of fighting in our house every morning. She doesn't want to wake up. She doesn't want to get dressed. She doesn't want to go to school. So then if I say, okay, we're not going to school today, well, then she's mad at me because we're not going to school today. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? So, yeah, we struggle a lot with composure, and I suffer with a lot of like anxiety and a little bit of PTSD. So, fighting and just composure is hard for me too. Because I get very angry very quickly, and I try really hard not. But when we're fighting about, just getting out of bed, I didn't want to get up either, but I still had to.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so hard. I will say one thing. When my second child came along, for some reason I had this idea that when I had kids, we'd all like sit around and eat breakfast together, and then say goodbye and go off and start our days. But I wasn't thinking about the fact that I hate mornings myself. I hate getting up and getting ready in the morning, and I don't even eat breakfast. So I don't know why I had this idea that I would like make breakfast for my kids and we'd all sit and talk before we started our day. But the second child came along, and she was not a morning, none of my kids were morning people. And our mornings were just, if we talked to each other, sometimes we wouldn't even talk to each other. And if we did, it was like barely. And usually one of us was grouchy. And so I was just really, I had to really let go of that. And I felt so much better once I did, but I had to let go of the fact that I'm never going to cheerfully make breakfast for my kids and we're going to sit. We're always going to be running late. One of us is always going to be grouchy, and grabbing something to eat on the way out the door, it's okay. That's just okay. That's just the way our family's going to be. And once I let go of that, it really did help. Which now that I'm aware of conscious discipline, that was the power of acceptance. The moment is as it is. We're never going to wake up cheerful and all be like, oh, let's make pancakes and sit and eat together. I know other families do it, and I wish that was us, but nope, that's just not. Well, I know that, let's go ahead and, we've talked about bedtime. We're just gonna go through and do, oops, let me go one. This is just another really quick reminder. And I really like this quote from Becky Bailey about the way that we treat ourselves is the way that we will treat our children and the way that they will treat others. So it really starts with being gentle on ourselves and treating ourselves kindly and with grace and with gentleness. And once we master that, then that will transfer to how we treat our children. And then we're teaching our children how to treat others. So just be gentle with yourself and give yourself time. There's not anything that we can do or say that's gonna stop misbehavior. It's just practicing and yeah, just give yourself grace. And I wanted to leave with an I love you ritual
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could put Humpty together again. Yay! Now we're gonna go fast. Now we're gonna go fast. Ready? Here we go. Hang on. Are you hanging on to her? So she'll be safe? We gotta keep Titi safe too. I'm gonna hang on to both of you. Like this. Okay, ready? We're gonna go fast. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty
Anyway, and I will, you can't really hear it in the video, but it is all the king's horses and all the king's men could put Humpty Dumpty together again. So that's how that changed. But my email is on here, and I believe everybody should have that. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Email is the easiest way to reach me. Our phone number is on here too, but definitely email is the easiest way. And if you do want to maybe just chat about a certain situation, get some input, we can definitely schedule a phone call, but reach out by email if anybody has any questions. And I really appreciate all of you joining us for these 5 weeks. And I really sincerely hope that this provided some tools for you to use, empowered you, and at the same time, that it's not something that anybody can just walk away with and say, I've got this, but just something to try, something to practice, and be gentle with yourself first so that you can be gentle with your children. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you.